YouTube, how are you now? Sean here from the EDC Den. Welcome back to the channel, one and all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a follow-up video to my last video where I was featuring a Spyderco Delica. In that video, I teased a new Spyderco knife that I got recently. This is the first Spyderco knife that I've picked up in, I'd have to guess, but it could be 7 years, 7 or 8 years. So it's been a really long time since I've purchased a Spyderco knife. I've just been sitting back, admiring all the amazing Spydercos that have come out in recent years. I tend to do that not only with Spyderco but with other companies as well. I'll make a purchase and then I'll kind of sit back and years will go by and I'll just kind of monitor the knives that are coming out, see which ones people are really liking, see which ones people aren't liking. I also find that paying attention to which knives get sprint runs or little offshoots, you know, different knives of the same family. You see that a lot in the native series with the native, the little native, the native chief, all that stuff. So if a knife does get a sprint run or it gets many variations, different iterations of the same knife, it's kind of a good sign that this knife is selling well. The general public, the consumers, they're really enjoying the knife. So the company, Spyderco as an example, will branch out and diversify the lineup of a knife. So that happens all the time. There's plenty of great Spydercos to pay attention to that I do not have. I was looking at the Man X2. That's a great series of knives. The Sage series looks really great. Like I said earlier, the Native series. And then just some standout knives that are popular like the Spyderco Capera. So those were all contenders. You can't have them all. You just cannot have all the Spydercos as much as we want to. Anyway, let's get to the one that I did get. This is the Spyderco Shaman, and you see here it's serrated and black. It's the blacked out edition, made in the USA, Golden, Colorado. Let's take a look at it. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Spyderco Shaman, my first Spyderco knife in many, many years. This is a really awesome knife. So after researching all of the modern offerings from Spyderco, like I said earlier, why did I settle upon the Spyderco Shaman? Well, it is one of those knives that has sprint runs and different iterations of the same knife. So like I said, that's generally a good sign that this has been well liked by the public. Spyderco is putting more effort into making different editions of this knife. I've got several reasons for choosing this as my new Spyderco. For one thing, in Spyderco's timeline, this is kind of a newer model. It's probably been out for 6 or 7 years now. Now we're in 2021. But it doesn't go way back like, say, the Delicas or the Enduras or the PM2. So in the grand scheme of things, it is a newer model, but it still has been around the block, so to speak. It's been around for several years. It also features the compression lock, which I am a big fan of. I do enjoy the compression lock, so that was a bonus for me. It has these nice contoured G10 handles. That's something different. I'm kind of used to the blockier style of the Paramilitary 2 handle. As you can see, it is all black, black G10, black DLC coat on the blade, and then blacked out hardware as well with the pocket clip. So I don't have any all blacked out Spydercos. And you know, the big thing here is the blade is fully serrated. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to Jaws. I don't name my knives, but this just looks like a big angry fish, doesn't it? Just a big shark with these jaws, these teeth. So we'll have to call this one Jaws for now. Let's take a closer look at these teeth. Spyderco does really excellent serrations. Serrations is not something I would normally go for. I prefer just a plain edge blade. I do have a combo edge Delica, but I do generally go for a plain edge blade rather than serrations. But something just drew me to this knife, even though it did have the full serrations. I really like the look of it. I do know that Spyderco does their serrations well. It's in a good steel CPM S30V, so it's still a great edge you got there. So those were some of the reasons why I chose the fully serrated Spyderco Shaman. I wanted to try one of Spyderco's new offerings. I wanted one that had been around the block and has a good track record. I wanted one that was fully blacked out and I wanted to try a fully serrated blade rather than just the combo edge like I've been used to in the past. These are awesome serrations. Spyderco does a great job with these. Not something I would usually go for. They're great for most EDC tasks, but they're not the best if you're out in the bush a lot. They don't cut wood well because it has a chisel grind. You can see here that this side of the blade is not sharpened. It's a flat grind without a sharpened bevel. On this side, also a flat grind with the serrated edge. So when you sharpen this knife, you just do the serrations, you just do this plain edge part of the tip, but you don't sharpen the backside. So for cutting into wood, it's going the wrong way essentially, right? If you were left-handed, maybe you could do better with that if that's your stick you're carving down, whereas right-handed, like this is meant for, just the way the grind is, you're going to be cutting in the wrong way to the wood. So this is more for rope material like clothing, carpet, stuff like that, but it's certainly not meant for the finer wood carving duties. That's okay with me. I have other knives for that. Since this won't be an outdoorsy kind of knife for me, what role will this fit into? Well, it's a little bit too big and aggressive looking for me personally anyway to carry as an EDC. Sure, if I'm at home on the weekends or whatever, but this will likely just end up in some sort of emergency bag. This would be a great emergency edge for all kinds of reasons. Like I said, if you have to cut into clothing or if you're caught up in some rope, something like that. So whether you're boating or riding a motorcycle or camping, going for a road trip in the car, and you might have to cut a seatbelt or cut some clothing, I think this will kind of go into a specialized role within my collection. It'll be kept in an emergency bag when I'm on certain type of outings, but I won't be expecting to use this one too much. So I don't plan on having to sharpen this edge too often. Maybe just the odd touch up. For that, I think I would be using this tapered sharpening rod. You can see it goes fine at the tip and broadens up here. And you can see that this kind of just fits nicely depending on the width, fits into the grooves. Just give it some light strokes to sharpen up, to touch up that edge. So I'll give you guys some close-up shots here and then we'll talk about the action of this knife. Here's that nice steel CPM S30V. Spyderco does an awesome DLC coating. I've got it here on what's likely a 10-year-old knife at this point, Paramilitary 2. You can see that this coating has held up really well over the past 10 years. A little bit of scuffs here and there, maybe the odd scratch, but from a distance that still looks pretty great to me after all those years. So I expect this coating to hold up in the same manner. Made in Golden, Colorado, USA Earth. There is Sal's maker's mark. Sal Glasser, owner and operator of Spyderco, designed this knife. This Shaman is derived from the Spyderco Native series. It is essentially a larger Spyderco Native 5. There's your blacked out hardware. You can see right through those holes that are meant for the pocket clip. It's catching the light right there. Those are the bronze washers on the inside. There's a better shot of them. You've got nested steel liners. I really like when Spyderco does the nested liners. Just saves a bit of thickness and you still get some strength there. You can see where it is milled out, all of those holes. The G10, you can see, is very much smoothed down. Not much texture there at all. However, the grip is phenomenal. You can really lock in with the jimping on the top and the bottom here. They do their jimping well. Does feel good. Contoured handles feel nice, so despite these being slick, as far as G10 goes, still not an issue grip-wise. You'll still be locked into place like you need to be. Got a G10 backspacer at the back. Black spoon pocket clip. Fit and finish is really good with the centering. You can see it looks a little bit off, but that's just because of the chisel grind, right? Sharpened here, not sharpened there, but it is down the middle apart from that. Here you've got a little ridge that you can feel. This backspacer could have been brought up a millimeter just to make it flush with the scales, the G10 scales. Not a big deal. You can feel it a little bit, but everything feels really solid. There's absolutely no wiggle here. I'd really have to torque on that quite hard to get it to wiggle. I didn't do any adjusting out of the box. It came like this with good action. The compression lock, if you're not familiar with it, you just push this tab and that will release the blade. And of course we have to talk about this little hump. You just saw the blade bounce off of my finger, which is in this little groove. When the blade comes in, it's going to bump your finger and push your finger out, or the blade just won't sit in the detent properly. This is fixed by either grinding off this little nub, which is not actually necessary here. I won't be doing that. I'm going to keep mine because with a little bit of practice you can get the action to close properly pretty much every time. It's almost like the more you concentrate on it, the harder it's going to be to get it to sit properly. I'm holding the knife at a bit of an awkward angle here, just trying to work around the camera, but you can still see that I'm able to get most of these to fly out and fly back into the handle properly. So it does take a bit of practice, but you just move your finger out of the way. By the time that gets there, if your finger's not there, it's going to close properly. It has a nice strong detent and that will keep the blade closed. So there it is, guys, my first Spyderco in many years. This is extremely sharp. I forgot to talk about how crazy sharp these serrations are, and even the tip. This knife cut me almost immediately. I swear, I was just looking at it and next thing I know, my thumb was bleeding. So I just kind of barely grazed it and it, just like butter, went right into my thumb. What do you guys think of Spyderco knives? I haven't shown too many Spydercos. I think I did a video where I showed my Spyderco collection in its entirety, about a dozen knives, but I haven't focused on Spyderco knives too much on this channel, despite being a big fan of theirs. Spyderco really did get the ball rolling in many regards for me, for my collection and my enthusiasm in knives in general. And it was really exciting getting this one and kind of having that experience all over again. I just don't want to say I forgot, but just been a really long time since I got a new one, and yeah, are they ever great knives. This Shaman is definitely a winner. I'm glad I picked it. We'll see if any of the other ones that I mentioned that I was researching end up here on the channel. I could see that in the future. I don't know about the near future, hopefully not another 7 years, but we shall see, guys. This video is getting a bit long. I'm going to let you get on with your day. We will see you real soon in the next video. Take care, everybody.